Welcome to Questions for Reflection with me, Susan Farmer, and Astrology and Soul. It's been a pretty crazy time. I don't know. I was really looking forward to eclipse season, and I feel tired. That's how I feel. How do you feel? Guess what? That's what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to take some time to look back on eclipse season and see what really happened. We get these twice a year, and there are so many different trains of thought about them. So we're going to kind of review what we talked about on the 17th when it was the partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, go over some of those points that we brought up, and then see what's really happened, because our last eclipse is on October 2nd. Well, last eclipse for the fall is on October 2nd, 2024, and it's at 10 degrees Libra. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the questions. We're going to bring up those outer planets. And really, it's basically what I said, a time for reflection and really trying to get into what you see. That's the best way you're going to be able to embrace all of you and see if energies really play out for you. So I guess one of the biggest questions as we go through this is asking yourself, like, I'm tired. Was it tumultuous or spiritual for you? Before we begin, let's go over the question for reflection, which is, what have you noticed unfolding over the past 2 weeks? What have you noticed? Again, was it tumultuous? Was it spiritual? Whatever that word means. I usually start having issues with words like that, like boundaries, spiritual, because they seem to be these words that people really don't think about what they mean, but they think they know what they mean, and they don't mean the same for everyone else. So anyway, whatever that means for you, right? So before we jump in, send me one of your reels talking anything astrology. I work a rugby. My work is for rugby. And when I was at a tournament Saturday, I took some videos of people. So do something. We'll send you a $5 credit. Those can stack up. Do as many as you want. Do as many as you don't, I guess. You don't want, because they will be great references just for people to understand and know the energies. And if you want to understand them, then other people need to do videos. So you need to do videos. So we all need to be doing reels, right? Okay. Did I say this is episode number 11? I don't know if I did. It's episode number 11. We are in those double digits. So that's pretty exciting to me. So again, question for reflection. What have you noticed unfolding over the past 2 weeks? So if you go back to September 17th, I posted an episode about the eclipses. And between then and now, we've been going over the outer planets, which are Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, because they've been important during this eclipse season. Why? Because of their connections to the sun. The sun and the moon are a part of every eclipse. And then the sun went on to really quickly have connections from that lunar eclipse on the 17th to all 3 of the outer planets. We went over those and the connections on the 24th of September, the 27th of September, and then October 1st. So if you need to go back and review those, do it, because it will help you really bring all this together. The outer planets represent your relationship with bigger themes in life. They are archetypes and themes you see over your lifetime. They are not as personal to you as, say, Venus or the sun or the moon or Mars or Mercury. They bring in, those, the ones I just mentioned, make up a lot of your personality. You can see how someone is going to act or their characteristics through those placements in your chart, what signs they're in, what houses they're in, where they're kind of going to play out. Now, the outer planets are as well, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. It's just in a different way. They are much bigger themes. They are not as integral in your personality, but they do create long transits. That's when planets, your inner characteristics and wirings are having conversations or being affected by those energies for a long period of time, and it does create change. So we talked about those. And then the sun represents your development over this life. I always call it the goal, not in so much as, I want to learn, well, maybe how to run a marathon, but it's kind of like your goal when you decided, if it was a choice, you may have just got thrown down here. This is my verbiage though. When you decided, hey, I'm going to try out a life on Earth. Like, I believe we kind of chose these signs. The sun sign is called your sign. What sign are you? I'm a Cancer. What sign are you? And those were the archetypes, Cancer archetypes I wanted to develop and get to know over time, both the lower, or I always say lower, higher, but it's like, I think you come in kind of lower and then you work your way up as you realize and see things. So it is a developmental planet, the sun. And it came and it touched all those bigger themes in life. So like I said, go back and review those recordings and let's see what we can find. On the 17th in that recording, we went over eclipses in general. We talked about they always come in twos. We talked about their new and full moons, and do not set intentions. Just sit back and see what unfolds. How did that work for you? I actually had an experience where I was after, I think it was right before the first one, or in that week, right? The first one happened on the 17th. So in like the next week or so, I was trying to make a pretty big life decision. And funny enough, I watched my video where it said, no, don't make intentions. Don't really make those decisions. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just supposed to sit back and see what unfolds during this time. Funny, I had to watch my own video. And then I remember, yes, because in my real life, not that this isn't my real life, lots of times I forget what I say on these and don't take my own advice. So I thought it was really funny. And I was talking to my friend and just said to them, I forgot it was eclipse time, and you don't make any decisions. So were you able to? It was interesting because I get to talk about this as I've already gone through it. Usually I make these videos before the energy happens, but I almost felt like, and tell me what you felt like, I was being pulled into a vortex of like, make a decision, take action, when in reality, things were being shown to me and I'm in a completely different place. What day is this? This is the 30th of September. I'm in a completely different place with all of those issues and situations. And if I would have made that decision, I wouldn't have had the whole story, the whole eclipse story, I guess. I also heard, I think they said the astrology podcast, Austin Coppock and Chris Brennan, I think they said they talked about eclipse energy building up for a month before and a month after. Maybe it was 2 weeks before the first eclipse and 2 weeks after. I don't know that I really think that, maybe a week. there is kind of a feeling in the air, and then you're like, oh, it's eclipse season. But you know what? When isn't there a feeling in the air? We've said, we've had a lot of big dates. We've had Mars Uranus conjunctions. We've had Jupiter Uranus conjunctions. We've had chaotic energy. We've had big new moons this year. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, when isn't it? Just be attuned to the temperature of what is happening and kind of get to know your system and what your system wants, right? So during a Uranus Mars conjunction, which happened, I think, July 15th, um, you probably are going to make some decisions or do some experiments or take some sort of action. Eclipse season, you want to sit back and see. Now, you may be thrown into a whole new lane in a way that you could not have chosen. So that's how you want to use all these different energies. And I hope this is making sense. If you know what's going on and you know what it's asking, then you can work with it a little better. Now, life just brings us stuff all the time, right? So whatever. We also talked about in that episode of what was literally happening in eclipses. This shadow is forming this, and this is in a shadow, and the sun is creating, and moon, shadow, earth, sun, moon, right? All those things. So were things coming out of the shadow for you? I always think things are super symbolic. I am a symbolic soul. So ask yourself, did you see anything coming out of the shadows? I did. I was informed of some things, and subconsciously some things that had been sitting in my subconscious that I was kind of running my life on. I was able to see more clearly and be like, oh, that's what I think. That's how I feel about this. Or that person, I feel like, does this a lot. And do I want that? But I'm still sitting back and waiting to see. Right? 'Cause we're not out of the eclipse time yet. When you see this, I think we will be. So if you know astrology and you know your birth chart, where is your Libra Aries axis? That's where we've been having a lot of these eclipses for the past year and a half, 2 years-ish. And it's always just a flow, right? So energy is a flow. I always think of life as surfing, and either I'm taking a big wave at the moment or I'm being thrown off my surfboard and completely having to retrack my steps or learn something new, all these types of things. So what really does happen? And you see the process unfolding in that Libra Aries axis. And that's where I have created and gained my faith, if you want to call it, in astrology. It always seems to play out. Where is yours? Is it in the 4th and 10th? Because they're opposites, right? Aries is about being an individual, deciding you're going to be who you are, regardless of what your culture or family has told you to be. Libra is about everything being fair and balanced and taking care of others as well as yourself. But others usually come before yourself with the Libra sign. So see how they're opposites? And that's the axis that the eclipses have been on for the most part this past couple of years. Now we've had one in Taurus sneak in, and we've had one in Pisces sneak in, because the nodes are always moving. And like I said, it's a process, it's a flow. It creates, it's just so seamless. It just creates this wonderful, seamless story in our life. So let's track back. I'm going to take you back to the past 2 years just to see if you can see anything. We had a solar eclipse on October 14th, 2023. So like a year ago. in Libra at 21.08, if you're into that. And this one is the one that could be seen in Utah, right? It was really cool. I loved it. I went to go see it in Ridgefield, and it was a really spiritual, great experience. There was one 2 weeks later because they always come in pairs, right? And this one was the lunar eclipse, and this one was at 5.09 Taurus. So we're in the Libra Aries axis now. We had been in the Taurus Scorpio axis. And now we're moving into the Pisces Virgo axis. I love the polarities in astrology. It just makes everything so much sense to me. But that's what I mean. It's a process. It's a flow. So we've moved from Scorpio Taurus eclipses to Libra Aries eclipses, and now we will be moving towards, and we had one this time, to the Virgo Pisces axis. So look back a year ago. Then move to, let's see, where are they? On March 25th of 2024, we had a lunar eclipse in Libra at 5.07 degrees. And then we had a solar eclipse on the 8th. And I think we could see that one in the US as well on April 8th, 2024 at 19 degrees. So if you know your chart, track these, see if you have planets within 3 degrees, see if anything happened or changed in those areas of life for you. Mine has been in the 1st and 7th. I am a Libra rising. I have not seemed like a Libra rising over this past year, which I've actually loved, because there is this instinct. It's just an instinctual way in Libra that your first notion is to take care of the other person, especially if you're a Libra rising. And then to have Aries in the house that represents partnership, it's like that all gets a little backwards. I'm supposed to be an individual, but my partner can be an individual, and I'm supposed to take care of the other, and I am taking, anyway, it's this weird conundrum, right? To have the opposite signs in opposite houses. And I can see a huge difference. It absolutely was building, but I would say the people around me have probably seen a lot of changes. Now, that all goes along with other parts of my chart and things being affected, just like yours. So can you put the story together? Mine was on the ascendant and descendant. Those are angles that are very important lines, and they start angular houses, which are very important and create a stabilizing, I wanted to say, foundation in life for all of us. So who I am and who I am to others has been significantly shifted over the past year, 2 years. Where is yours? Can you see it? So I don't remember where I stopped, but I think I gave you the dates, March 25th, 2024 for the lunar eclipse, and then the solar eclipse, April 8th, 2024 at 19 Aries. Yes, I did. Then we just had the September 17th full moon, partial lunar eclipse in Pisces at 25.41. And then on October 2nd, we are going to have an annular solar new moon eclipse at 10.04 Libra. Where is that for you? Now, that new moon solar eclipse on the 2nd is also the seeding of our next new moon. If we go back to the new moon in Virgo, we had Neptune really involved spiritually, right? Spirituality, walking with God, the fog, what's dissolving, all those things. And now we have a grand water trine which water is intuition, forming at this solar eclipse, which is the new moon. So we have two seeding points back to back of really get into your intuition, get into your feelings, get into your emotions, see what your gut is telling you. So we talked about lunar eclipses on the 17th. That's an emotional reaction, right? Or something manifesting. You're going to have subconscious patterns coming up and being revealed during that time. And it's a time for reflection, introspection, and self care. Did you do that? Did you feel like you needed it? Did you need those little extra? I know a lot of people around me have been getting sick. So they've been taken down and had to give themselves self-care. A solar eclipse, which is coming on the 2nd, we talked about that being, is that a new lane? Like, I've really only experienced that once in my life where it completely shifted me to a completely new life. But I had, that was around the Great Conjunction, if you remember that in 2020 when COVID and all that. Mine, COVID didn't phase me with everything else going on in my life at that time. But that's the only time my life, as far as eclipses, has been really shifted. Have you had that? Did you have that this time? I usually see really small shifts and I can see it over time. That's more my relationship with the energies. So can you see something from lunar eclipse 6 months ago back in March that has become like a balance or a masculine, feminine type balance within you? Or did you see that you sorted something out from that time frame? I know there's so many questions in this one, but these are in this video because these are the questions you ask if you say, am I seeing these energies in my life? Is this something I can sink my teeth into and really believe in? And yes, there are so many different schools of thought because there are so many different astrologers. So what is it for you? Again, we are all just humans trying to delineate, but we're delineating off of our characteristics and instincts. And it's when I talk to other astrologers, it's so interesting. They can speak to an energy that they have strongly in their chart so deeply, and just it's almost like it feels like a rhythm. They can feel the rhythm of that energy. And then if I don't have anything in that energy, you still have it. You have all of everything, right? You have it all in you somewhere. But if it's not dominant in me, they can speak to it much more eloquently. And you can really feel this soul level of them knowing it than I can. And then I hear people try to speak to signs or planets, mostly signs that I have. You know, I've heard people talk about Libras that just don't really have any, and they they try to describe it, and I'm like, you have no idea. Some really big name astrologers, I am like, I want to see their chart because no, they don't get the real conundrum inside of me. Well, just like I probably don't get the real conundrum inside for other signs. So we're all just working off of our own instincts and wiring. And so what do you have? It's best for you to think about you, your wiring, your characteristics, so that you can embrace all of you. Through these past 2 weeks, what have you been doing? Do you feel like you've had spiritual experiences? Have you been experimenting? That's that Uranus. Have you blown up the lab a few times? I went on to a board meeting and just let it blow. Like I came in hot. Someone said something in this meeting and I had not experienced it quite the same. So to me, I blew up the lab in that one. It was not great. So we had to have some conversations with my boss since then, all those things. Can you see some things dissolving? Are boundaries coming up, going down? Are you seeing mysteries? Are you being initiated into something new? Those are all the things we've been talking about this past 2 weeks. Lastly, I mentioned this just a minute ago. We are going to have a grand water trine building with this solar eclipse. It's going to be, if you don't know what that means, like I always say, if you don't speak astrology, throw it out. It doesn't matter. What it means, water speaks to intuition and the ability to be empathic or feel things that other people are feeling, thinking, and intuition, all uh in my head. I just heard, like, is this intuition or is this fear? That's something I had to really teach myself because I have a lot of that water. So a lot of my life, or in the past 10 years, I would say I've had to swim through those waters deciding, wait, is this my intuition or is this fear speaking? Which one is it? And I've come to be able to feel it pretty quick and know, to where I have much more confidence in my intuition. Where are you with that? So the three planets that we have coming into this water trine, which I find very interesting because we've gone through this solar lunar, no, sorry, the lunar eclipse, the new moon in Virgo, all with those seeds of Neptune and water. And let's figure something out that's grounded and logical. And now we're heading into another new moon, like I just spoke about, a new moon, eclipse moon, though, right? With Saturn in Pisces, Mars in Cancer, and Venus in Scorpio. They are going to be forming a grand water trine at the time of this solar eclipse. They are within the 3 degrees. So, I think I have it here. We're going to be feeling it between the 4th and the 8th. We're going to be feeling it between, well, that's when they happen. That's when the conversations become exact, right? But we're going to be feeling that for, from probably the 2nd to the 10th, because they're all going to be of October, because they're all going to be within these orbs and speaking to one another. So it's very similar to the last cycle. It seems like something not of this world, or that we can't touch, or we can't really understand why. That paradox I talked about last time, where two things are true, or the paradox of I know this to be true and I don't know why, but if I research it, it will come to be true, fruition. So Venus is about, let's enjoy this. Let's be open to the pleasure experiences and have a nice time and have harmonious, equitable relationships, have people we love in our life. It's a lot about those relationships, the 5 senses, just really enjoying things. Now, Mars and Saturn aren't quite as enjoyable. Mars can be about fighting. It's hot. It's about cutting. It is about taking action, though, and can be about having the courage to take that action. It is an action-oriented planet. It wants to go out and get things done. Saturn, on the other hand, is very logical, grounded, moves very slowly through time. All of these planets right now are in water signs. Venus, well, they're all 3 in signs that I don't think they like to be in that much, other than, let's see, Saturn. Yeah, Venus, just thinking about it, is in Scorpio, which it doesn't really necessarily feel good in. Mars is in Cancer, which it doesn't necessarily feel good in, where I've talked about they're at home or they're at detriment or they're in exile. They're not at home. They're not feeling good. It's either really hard. Mars is in a place that's really hard. Like in Cancer, it's about nurturing, feeling, making people feel loved, forming those bonds with Earth and having a reason to be here and just sense that you're at home and safe. Mars likes to fight and cut things off and take action. I wouldn't say Cancer. Well, I know Cancer is not an action-oriented sign. It has to sit and intuit and decide how it feels about something before it takes a action. Once it's decided, game on. It's done. But it takes a minute to get there. Mars is spontaneous, fire, let's go. So Mars is struggling in this water sign of circuitousness, trying to figure out what to do. Venus likes all those sensory things like I just talked about, but it's in Scorpio, which is deep and can be dark. Scorpio is about finding the light in the darkness. And then we have Saturn in Pisces, which is kind of an oxymoron as well, where it's that grounded, logical, and how grounded and logical is romantic fantasy? No, it's not. but the actually, I find this setup quite amazing because everything's kind of off kilter a bit. Nothing is really sitting in places that they love, along with the fact that we're having an eclipse, which is, what did I say in that last, an abnormal phenomenon? But I question that because they happen every 6 months. So is it just a phenomenon that happens every 6 months that is normal, or is it abnormal? I don't know. You decide. So we have kind of all these oxymoron, conundrums, abnormalities, all these things happening. And they could speak to a really great story of get in your gut, get into your intuition, see the logic and the grounded reality that has taken time, Saturn. Get after you figure it out in your gut, get off that horse or get off that. I don't even know what I'm saying. I always mix up sayings, so I don't trust myself. Do something with your intuition and that gut. Trust it. Take some action. Go for it. Now, Mars is going to want to go fast and Saturn's going to put on the brakes, right? So there might be a really good in between with that. You may feel frustrated if you can't just go, and it may ignite Mars and all that, but just use the water to throw on the igniting and throw it out the window, right? Understand that what it's asking you is to take some action, Mars in Cancer, with that intuition, all water signs, that is grounded, practical, has taken time, Saturn and Pisces, to get to a place that you have dreamt of. Pisces as well, that you want to be and have taken the time to get to. That is unseen in your life, something that you dreamt up and can now do it. Venus in Scorpio is have that good time really getting deep, and it may seem scary. Scorpio can be a lot about that fear. Like I told you, is it fear or is it intuition? Ask yourself that. Venus is the feel good. So what have you felt that's deep and maybe scary that you can take action on that is grounded and practical? Don't do it till after the eclipse, but look through these past 2 weeks and see what has been formulating in your life through the dissolving of Neptune, the experimentation of Uranus, and the Pluto bombs that go off, detonate, and create have you create yourself step by step to form a new life, a new you? Where is all that happening? So again, the question for reflection, which seems very simple after all that, is what have you noticed? What have you noticed over the past 2 weeks? What is unfolding? Can you see the process? Can you feel the energies? Can you see how it's happening in your life and has happened throughout your life for you? I hope you can. I hope you can feel a deep sense of peace, even with the hard things, and learn to embrace all of you. Love you. Bye bye.